I'd like to introduce Allison from England, who takes LDN for MS. Welcome, Allison.
Hello, thank you.
Could you tell me how old you were when you first started to get MS symptoms?
26.
And what were your symptoms at that time?
My right hand went numb all the way up to my mid-forearm. You could stick pins in me and I really wouldn't feel it. So I went to the doctor and he prescribed that I take Nurofen for a week, and that if it didn't get any better in that week to come back. I did take the Nurofen, but within that week my left eye started to... I didn't go blind in my left eye, but I got very bad vision. So I went back to the doctors and saw a different... It's a group practice. Saw a different doctor, a lady doctor, and she said, "Oh, you're off to the eye hospital now." And that's how I sort of got to be tested for MS, because with my hand going funny and my eyesight being a bit wobbly, they gave me an MRI and all sorts of other tests with things stuck to my head and sight tests and God knows what. And that's how they diagnosed me.
And did they offer you any medication at that time?
No, not at all.
And what year was that, Alison?
That was in 1992.
Okay. So you were left with the label that you've been diagnosed with MS, and how did that affect you mentally?
Oh gosh, I think it affected my mum more than it affected me, actually. I used to go out with a guy called Carl, whose dad had MS, so I knew a lot about it.
Right.
But I mean, Martin, the dad, he was very poorly, and he was, in a wheelchair, and he really struggled. I was 26 years old, and I was still bouncing about. To look at me, you would never have known I had MS. And I carried on as normal. I just carried on through life quite blithely, really. I never told anybody. It was only really, really people that were close to me that knew what I'd got. And I think I sort of stuck my head in the sand. If I don't talk about it, it doesn't exist and it's not happening to me. And that's how I carried on for, 15 years? You would really... I worked, nobody knew, nobody at all knew. But then in the last four odd years or so, it sort of started to really take... It's become very evident that there is something wrong. The other thing is as well, I fight it every inch of the way. As soon as I was diagnosed, within 6 months, I joined a gym. I'd started running, and I did half marathons and all sorts. I became a complete and utter fitness freak. I was quite addicted to adrenaline, I must say. And then, as I say, in the last 4 years, although I'm still not too bad, my body's starting to say, you're asking too much now. You need to slow down a bit. And these days, I don't walk very well. I've not got much balance. My balance is terrible. I can't, unless I'm holding on to something, I can't sort of walk across a room. I have to hold on to things because the floor sort of comes up to meet me.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, with all MS sufferers, your bladder just goes berserk. So my bladder seems to have a mind of its own.
So what would you say your symptoms were, Alison, before you started LDN?
Oh, I was on a fast track to a wheelchair. I definitely was. I spent most of my life, it seemed, asleep in bed, really. I had no energy whatsoever. I'd get up, go downstairs, make myself a drink, come back upstairs and collapse into bed, and I'd need a nap to recover from the stress of going downstairs, It was you just think, well, this is it now. I haven't got the energy to do anything, and you get to the point where I can't do it. So do you know what? I don't want to do it.
Mm.
And you become very lazy and lethargic and quite depressed. Although I'm quite an upbeat person, I don't do depression easily. But I did sort of think, my God, all my friends are going out and having fun and doing what they want to do, and I'm stuck here. And yes, it does really get on your nerves a lot, actually.
So what would you have said at that time, your quality of life on a score of 1 to 10, and 10 being the best?
2, 3.
Okay. Yeah. And what would you say it is now?
6 to 7.
Well, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How did you hear about LDN?
This is where I could kick myself. I was told about LDN a long, long time ago, but because I wasn't too bad at that point, it was like, well, I don't really need that. And I'm also one of these people that I don't like drugs. I avoid taking drugs, and it was sort of, I didn't want to take anything where I could become not addicted to it, but my body would become reliant on it, and then I would need, over a period of time, you'd need to take more to make it work, and then you take more again to keep making it work. And I really didn't want to get into that spiral. Previously, I had been into hospital and had steroid treatment, where they infuse you with steroids over a 3-day period.
Yeah.
And that stays in your system for 6 months. And yeah, a couple of times I had that done, and that sort of helped a bit, but I didn't like it particularly. And then I bullied my specialist to let me go on to a beta-Enferon, because my argument has always been totally opposed to doctors and specialists. They will only give you something when it's so bad you need something. And my argument has always been preventative is better, than giving me something after the event has happened. So I really, really bullied my specialist, and in the end he let me have a beta-Enferon, which I injected, and I stayed on that for probably 8 months or so, and I didn't like injecting myself, if I'm honest. And the other thing, it didn't really seem to help me at all. When I first started taking it, my body seemed to go into free fall at the shock of having this drug. And my quality of life did not improve one iota on it. And I'd heard about LDN years previously. And I know a girl that does reflexology and all the holistic things, because I love all that sort of stuff. And she said, she went to a fair or something, and somebody told her about LDN and Dr. Bob Lawrence at this I don't know, holistic fair or something. And she told me about it, and I said, I've heard of Bob Lawrence, and I've heard about LDN. She said, no, you've got to do it. You've got to phone up and do it. So I had his phone number, and I phoned Bob and talked it through with him, and thought, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'll try it. It's not as aggressive as a beta-Enferon. So that was it. And the first couple of months I took it, yes, I did feel a lot better. Initially, straight off, I felt brilliant. And then, as my body started to get used to it, I sort of went into a dip. And I didn't go backwards or anything. I didn't end up being as bad as I was. But I just sort of, I don't know, maybe I was pushing myself too hard and I got fatigued, I don't know. But I sort of went through a dip with it a bit. But I've been taking it for just over a year now, and I can honestly say that if you saw me this time last year, if you saw me 18 months ago and then you saw me for the first time today, you would think I was a different person, because it has improved my quality of life dramatically. I mean, I was all my core stability had gone. You know, my back hurt all the time. I was bent double really, and crawling about the house. Whereas now, yes, I still get backache, but it doesn't stop me doing things. I still trot up and down the stairs, and I cook my own meals. I do my own housework. You know, I can do all the things now. Okay, slowly and carefully, but I do them. Whereas before, I hadn't got the energy, the will, or the inclination to do any of that before.
Mhm. And what would you say to other people who are thinking of trying LDN, but like you, would prefer not to take any drugs?
Give yourself do it for a year, and you know, give yourself a time frame. And before you start it, write down everything that is wrong, absolutely everything, and start taking it. And then 6 months down the line, go back to your list and have a look and see what's got better, because things will have got better. I'm not saying that you'll jump out of your wheelchair or out of bed and be like a spring chicken, because that's not what happens. It's very, very subtle, and you have to work with it. The MS Society, that I don't actually like particularly, has a phrase saying, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So take the LDN and you will get more energy and you will sleep better. But with that extra energy, do exercises, move more, keep making everything work every day. Do some very gentle yoga, you know, walk up and down the street, do something that's over and above what you used to do. You've got to work with it.
Well, that's very good advice. Everybody should try and do a little bit more. If not, you naturally do a little bit less, don't you?
Yeah.
So that's very good.
That's the thing with MS, isn't it? That you're too tired and your muscles hurt, or they won't work properly. Your legs aren't working properly today. So the general consensus for most people is, oh, just be kind to yourself. Sit down on, curl up on a settee with a blanket and a hot water bottle and watch TV for the day, and, treat yourself kindly. You can't do that on LDN with MS. You've got to be a little bit brutal with yourself. Mm-hmm. And say, you've got to push your boundaries every day. And yes, it will make you tired to start with, but your body, the body is an amazing thing. It can repair itself, and you can retrain your brain to do things. Mm-hmm. So you've got to push your boundaries.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Alison.
Thank you.